You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike.
Hello again, and welcome into the Psych with Mike library, and I am here, as always, with my good friend and colleague, Mr. Brett Newcomb.
Well, I am a good friend and colleague, but today I'm a student.
Today you are a student because we're going to get right into this. We have a very special guest with us. We have Kibbi Linga, who is joining us from California. Can you say hello, Kibbi?
Hi, everyone.
So I actually met Kibbi because I saw something that she posted on Twitter, and I contacted her because what she had posted was actually really, really impactful for me. But Kibbi actually, through her own process of working through her trauma, I'm to understand, met a therapist who had recommended that you start doing art, and you started doing that, and now that is one of the primary ways that you process your trauma. Is that correct?
That is correct. I do believe that expression, or art in this case, has completely saved my life.
Well, that's incredible. And I've actually had a couple of people contact the show and ask about how does that process work? What is art therapy? Why do people do it? And so when I saw the work that you did and it spoke to me, I said, I really want to try and talk to this person and get her story and see if it works out and have her on the show. And it did. And so now here we are.
Yeah, and thank you for having me, Mike.
It's our honor.
So, Kibbi, I have a question. Are you a professional who guides people through this kind of therapy, or are you just talking to us today as a person who goes through this kind of therapy and finds it to be incredibly productive in your own life? Are you both, or are you...
I like going through the therapy myself, but I do expose it, and I do try to help inspire others and be there for others who are open to this art therapy journey as well, because I do believe in it.
Great. That's helpful. So how did you find a therapist that would introduce you to this and open this channel for you?
How did I find a therapist? Just through health insurance. It was just a general suggestion, and it really led quickly to me. I got my first, I went to Target to just get some supplies, and then to Blick, and it escalated very quickly over time, and I produced pieces pretty rapidly.
Awesome.
Right from the get-go.
Okay. And how do you know... so I'm speaking a language that's probably not your language. How do you know what you need to paint? Does something surface within you and you start painting it, or do you have a message that you're trying to generate? How does this work? You have fascinating names for the pieces that I have in front of me that are very colorful, and I would like to hear some of that process. How do you put one together? When do you know it's finished?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in PTSD recovery, and that's not easy stuff. And I'm in life, right? And I have feelings. I paint my emotions, relationships, and flashbacks. Mainly my feelings. And when I'm going through something that is interfering with my life, causing me pain, such as a feeling, like right now I feel really overwhelmed in life, and I'm putting it on canvas. Mm-hmm. Or if I'm having a problem with a relationship, or if there's a flashback I want to reach, I put it on canvas. And throughout the process, the beginning is not the hard part. The beginning is the fun part. It's where I get to start the creation. But during the painting, the pain comes up, and I get to feel the pain and put it on canvas and work through my feelings, emotions, flashbacks, whatever it may be. And it's hard. It's painful. But by the end of the painting, I am feeling the triumph, and I am feeling amazing. And when I finish the painting and expose it, it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe I got through that and went through this triumph, and I learned this much. So it's a very powerful experience to me, and I am inspired by my daily feelings, relationships, and disease, which is PTSD.
No, that's very encouraging to hear and very positive. My curiosity is, do you identify in your mind certain colors with certain feelings, or does your hand just go to the palette and put it on the canvas and say, "This is what I'm feeling"?
That is a magnificent question, because I love colors, and yes, I do. Like, my art is code art, I would call it, especially with the colors. I use white for hope. I use black for the darkness or fear. Different colors have different meanings. So yeah.
And nobody taught you that. You just realized that.
For her, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, because your colors are so vivid, and the patterns are complex, the overlapping colors, and people will be able to see some of these as we talk about them. But I'm just fascinated by the process. And do you feel the intensity of the emotions, and do you feel them relieved as you put paint on canvas, or do you feel the relief when you know you're finished, when you know the experience is over? Can you talk about that?
I feel the relief when I'm finished. I feel floored. I almost have to take a break from painting for a few hours when I finish. But a little secret about my paintings is that probably on most all of them, there are teardrops of mine that have fallen onto the canvas during the process. But it's so worth it, because when I finish the painting, it's the euphoria.
Okay.
So I just wanted to tell everybody who is listening to the podcast that the images we're going to talk about in just a few minutes are going to be, links are going to be up on the podcast site, but on the YouTube version, I'll actually have the images up as we're talking about them. But one of the things that I was thinking about when I was listening to you talk with Brett, Kibbi, is that for people who say, okay, you know what, I want to try this, I want to go in and be brave and do something that's going to allow me to start to express these emotions, and then they get into it and then they do find that it's difficult, what would you say to somebody to encourage them to not just quit before the process was over?
Keep going. Reach out. I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do any part of my journey alone. I think there's a lot of people in the art therapy field, a lot of people who found answers. And if I can just be a part of that, spreading light and hope today, I hope I can be. But one rule I did make for myself, I don't stick to it now, but I did in the beginning, is no matter what, I don't quit. I will make beauty out of it.
Yeah.
And so that helped me a lot.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So let's actually talk about some pieces. And once I had seen your work on Twitter, and then I contacted you, you sent me some images, and the very first thing that happened was the piece that you have titled "Climbing Out of Denial." Immediately spoke to me. Like, I looked at that and I had a very, very intense, visceral, emotional reaction to that piece. I saw both, I saw despair, but I also saw hope in that myself. I don't know if that is what your experience of it is, so I would like for you to kind of help walk us through what was the process of coming up with that, what was the emotion that you were feeling, and what was the end result?
Absolutely. And to piggyback on the last question, to be honest with you, I absolutely do not like that painting. I think it is ugly. And that was one of my first paintings, and I did not stop. I wanted to get out my feeling, and I was authentic with it, and that is what Climbing Out of Denial looks like.
Wow.
There's an infinity symbol in the middle because I thought it would never end. There is no white in the painting whatsoever because I couldn't see any hope, and for me, white is hope. And it was the darkest painting I have ever painted, and it was the most painful. And I do get a lot of people like you that are like, oh, that painting speaks to me so much, and it's completely ugly to me. But to be true to that painting, I did stick with it. I was authentic, and it was a very painful painting for me to climb out of denial, as it would be for anyone with PTSD. So.
Wow, that's really amazing to hear you talk about that, that people have this connection to that work, but that for you, while you were producing it, it was just incredibly difficult, and you just had to make the choice to stick with it and not quit, because it would have been easier, right, to just say, okay, this is too hard, I'm done.
Right. But I stuck with it, and I wanted to show someone else what my feeling looked like. Because another thing for me was I was having a hard time getting my feelings validated.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could paint something and show someone, and they validated it, they were validating my feelings. So it also got me a lot of validation for my PTSD or whatever you want to call it.
So I'm looking at it, and you're very careful to say there's no white in this, there's no hope in this. But I associate a calmness and a peacefulness with the greens that are in the center of the infinity symbol. And I know that they're surrounded by blacker colors, but to me that suggests that even in this painting you could find a core place of calmness. Am I off base in the way I interpret that?
That's a beautiful interpretation. It's like hidden hope, right? It's like the hope is there, but it's hard to see.
That's what I got from it when I looked at it, was exactly that, because the infinity symbol in the greens and the purples and all of that, I saw that, and that's exactly how I felt, is that there is hope. Even though there is darkness, there can still be hope.
Right. And it was really hard to hold on to that, but I don't believe there's any time in my life where I lost all hope. And so there is some hope in that painting, yeah.
So in the several paintings that you sent us to look at, which one to you says hope and happiness the loudest? I mean, that's your darkest one. So which is to you the more...
I have to say forgiveness to Red. This is someone that was very, very, very difficult for me to forgive. Someone that I thought was impossible to, and it took forever. And through the painting, I really saw the opportunity to choose a door, that I can turn my anger into compassion, and I chose that door. And since that painting, I have had more and more compassion for this person I call Red each and every day. And so it was a very game-changing painting for me.
So it's a really intricate, repetitive process, a picture. The physical act of painting that's required. It's almost like pointillism. Lots of dots of different colors that are surrounded by a couple of major symbols. Is that consciousness on your part of doing it that way, or is it just what you felt at the time and how your hand moved?
That, with the dots, that was just how I felt at that time. There was, I think, all the expression on that painting in particular was all my anger towards Red. And so each dot is just more and more.
And so the crosses, are those religious symbols?
Yes. No, I'm not religious. I did use crosses. To be honest, I used the crosses because Red in particular was an imposter to me. She made herself appear to be a better person than she was. So I used the regular cross and then the upside down cross for that gaslighting or whatever you want to call it.
Gotcha. And so then the starburst patterns, are those representative of starbursts, or those flowers? What do the starburst patterns for you represent?
Everything else on that painting is just expression of anger.
Okay.
So, and a lot of it, I tried to make it look beautiful with like the starburst or whatever, because Red did, for me, make herself to be a person she was not. Made me trust her for the wrong reasons.
Wow, that is really, really powerful. Can I ask you, can we go back to, and I don't want to belabor this, but when you were going into the process of painting Climbing Out of Denial, and you were doing that, do you remember, and if you don't want to share this, then certainly by all means just say, I don't feel comfortable sharing that, but do you remember what was going on for you in therapy at that time?
I do, yes, and I do not want to share it.
Okay, yeah, and that's totally fine. But I imagine that was a really, really difficult time for you.
Right.
But it may also have been a time when you learned the most.
Right.
Yeah.
Throughout my painting journey, I would say the most difficult time was my very first paintings, and it's only gotten easier since.
But
And that was like my,
if you hadn't,
one of my first things.
but if you hadn't gone through that process at that time, then you wouldn't be where you are today, right?
Right. How would I be able to find my truth? If I can't get honest with myself, if I can't be authentic with myself, which is what this expression brings me, how do I find who I am and the things that have been done to me, which I get to now look at? Because I had completely forgotten them.
So you were at a point at some time where you had compartmentalized events that had happened to you in such a way that you didn't have access to them.
I did not have access to them. They were long gone through 25 years of self-destruction. So in retrospect, I regained a lot of my memories, enough for the story, within 9 months I've been painting, 9 or 10 months. That's magnificent to me.
But it's so...
I mean, that's such a gift.
Yeah, it's so important for people to realize they're not alone. I mean, you're not crazy if you have these parts of your memory that you don't have access to, and some people don't even know that they don't have access to them, and then something happens that sparks a memory, and they're not even sure whether or not that's real, but that is a part of the process when you're going through that trauma recovery, is being able to regain access to those memories and those feelings. Even though it's difficult, it's really important to do that work, because you can't, as you say, get to where you are today without actually going through that pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Without finding out who we are and what's been done to us and what we really believe, like our core self.
So I'm looking at the painting called Finding My Voice, and I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit. What was going on when you painted this one? What feelings were you in touch with?
Absolutely. I was at a point in my recovery, and before recovery, I could not stand up for myself. That was out of the question. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have what it took. But through recovery, this was maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I was going through an experience in my personal life where I had to advocate for myself. I had to stand up for myself. And I was like, what? I can't do this. And so I painted the painting, and it was hard and it was painful because of all the things that I was taught. I'm not good enough. I won't matter. Nobody will listen to me.
Right.
XYZ. And there's so many layers on that painting. It's actually very thick, but through that painting, I got enough strength to show up, advocate for myself, speak up, and I got what I was asking for, which is what I believe what I deserve for in this particular situation. So it was a very powerful painting to me because as a PTSD victim, I didn't have a voice.
So are you, or maybe a different question, where are you in this painting? Are you the center of the painting, or are you the entire painting? Where are you in the paint? Because when I look at this, let me just say what I see, and then you tell me I'm wrong. What I see is you at the center, and then all of these things being projected out from that, and that all the things being projected out from that are you learning how to ask for the things that you want, finding your voice and saying, this is my narrative, this is my truth, and I'm going to speak my truth regardless of what the consequences are.
Absolutely. The yellow and the gold is the triumph, the I'm freaking doing it part, and the white is the hope and like the letting go, and the purple is the mystery. I don't know what's going to happen, you know? All I can do is the footwork. I can show up and I can say how I feel and stand up for myself. And so that explains that.
So it's interesting to me, because I have no experience with this at all, but it's interesting to me to listen to you put words behind these paintings, because I think words are the way that I process. And I'm hearing an affirmation of strength and self-honesty and self-discovery that's pretty powerful. And is that what you get out of what you paint?
That is, I would say truth, triumph, truth and triumph.
Yeah, truth does triumph. Yeah. Okay, and pain.
Pain brings triumph.
The expression of the pain.
Okay, and one of the works we got to get to, because I have to know what's going on with this, is Unanswered Questions. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know, other than Climbing Out of Denial, the other work for me when I first saw these, and obviously Climbing Out of Denial, we've already talked about that, was the first one that spoke to me. This next one that really hit me was Unanswered Questions. And for people who are looking at the image, there's a lot of barriers and boundaries, but then there's also a lot of connected points. And so I'm wondering, could you just talk to us a little bit about what that means to you and how that painting developed?
Sure. I was really angry when I started this painting. I was like, I have so many questions that I have that I don't know the answers to that I feel I deserve to. Mm-hmm. And so I started the painting, and most of my work is symmetrical, and I just kind of eyeball it. But this piece, I actually used mathematical instruments because I was angry, and I wanted to be precise. And I didn't know what I was looking for, but being precise helped my anger. And halfway through, I was like, I want it to look like it's never going to stop if there is an ending. And I think I got that message across. When I look at it, it looks like all these unanswered questions are never going to stop, right? But there is an ending. And to me, and through the pain of realizing I have all these unanswered questions that I feel I have a right to know, I learned that I have the option, and I took it, to trust that what I know is what I'm supposed to know. And what I know in the future is what I'm supposed to know. And all I have to do is just trust. I don't have to be upset.
Right. Even if what you know in the future is different from what you know now.
Right.
Yeah.
This is something way out of my spectrum I can't control, and it's difficult, and it's painful, but I did get this beautiful painting out of it, so it's worth it.
So you started with a lot of black and a lot of structure, the mathematical structure, to just make yourself stay focused and controlled. But then you have all of this white, and throughout our conversations, you've been talking about white being the color of hope. So as you found the expression through the precision, the expression of your rage, did you then find that hope was coming in and crowding it out?
What was that last part?
Did the white come from the sense that hope was there, even though you had all this anger, and that the hope was stronger and bigger? Because to me, the white part is what pops on this painting.
Absolutely. The first layer, I used a lot of purple because for me, purple is mystery. I used blue because blue is very cunning, and I think that these unanswered questions are cunning. And then I used gold because I was hopeful of a triumph. And then the next layer, I put these black, almost infinite wiggle lines, and that's all the stuff I want to know. And then on the top, you nailed it. I use white. That's the hope. That's the beauty of it. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and giving us an opportunity to understand these paintings. I think what we hope to accomplish with this podcast is people that are out there who have issues that maybe they can't talk to anybody about or they haven't been able to get in touch with can consider that possibly through painting, even non-picture painting, just a self-expressive painting and symmetrical patterns and so on, that answers will come to them and healing can happen. And you are a living example of that. So thank you for sharing that with us and sharing your journey.
And Kibbi,
of course,
do you sell your work? Is there a way that people could get a hold of you if they were interested in anything that you are producing?
Yes, KibbiStillsArt.com, Kibbi Stills Art on Instagram or Facebook, or Kibbi Stills Truth on Twitter. Any form of communication is fine. Right now, I am selling prints of any of my artwork, basically adjustable depending on what you want in your price range, anywhere from tote bags to quality prints, and then I'm planning on selling my originals in about 6 months from now.
Wow. Okay.
Awesome, and good luck on that. I have a friend who is on a similar journey to you, doing almost exactly the same kind of thing. And one of the things that she has done that's helped her support herself is she makes a print that she sells, but she also then has that reduced down to coasters and put on the coasters. So if you buy the print, you can buy the coasters, and you have that art everywhere in your house, or that message or statement everywhere that you want to have it in your house. So that might be a thing you could consider as well.
Right. Yeah, with prints, there's so many price ranges. It's an easy way to get art on walls. So.
Yeah.
And I will include all of Kibbi's contact information on both the podcast and on the YouTube version of the show. And again, Kibbi, this has been fantastic. I think that having somebody who has walked the process is so much more informative than just having somebody who does art therapy talk about, when I do art therapy, this is what I do. Having somebody who is actually working that process and being able to talk about, this is what this means to me, is so much more beneficial. It gives people so much more of an illustration of how this can work, and I'm hopeful that it will touch somebody and they'll actually think, okay, I actually could try this, and they'll do it, and they'll find some kind of healing for themselves. That would be my hope.
Thank you. And mine as well. My hope is expression in general, if not painting. Like maybe cracking jokes, maybe being a comedian, maybe being a dancer. Like expression in general has helped me really process my grief and heal it.
What a great message. Thank you for that.
That is an excellent point. So, as always, the music that appears on Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue, and you can get a hold of the show through psychwithmike.com. You can get us and suggest show topics, which is actually how this show came about, was somebody had suggested that, but you can also ask us questions or give us feedback. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.